Scenes from the new Canadian-made October 7th documentary called The Killing Roads, showing real footage captured by Hamas terrorists' own cameras as they systematically hunt down and execute 250 Israeli victims along 70 kilometers of highway in southern Israel, the main stretch of Route 232, which Israelis today call the Road of Blood. While much attention has been paid to the massacres off the highway, such as at the Nova Music Festival and inside the kibbutzes and villages and cities that the road connects to, Canadian filmmaker Igal Hecht felt he needed to frame his story on the people who found themselves making it to the road itself, including Hersh Goldberg-Polin, who had managed to flee the dance music festival on foot, escape into a bomb shelter along the highway, only to be trapped there, fending off hand grenades until the last one blew off one of his arms, before he was kidnapped and taken hostage into Gaza, where he was executed last month. The highway is also where those who had jumped into their cars and frantically drove north or south wound up in Hamas ambushes south of Sderot.
And this is in no way trying to downplay the Shoah, but this was a Shoah. And had they moved up and not stopped at Yad Mordechai, and had they gotten to Ashkelon and Ashdod and Rehovot, etc., this would have been a Shoah. And people don't realize it.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Thursday, September the 19th, 2024. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News and made possible in part by the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation.
This is an audition to be a cantor.
But I don't want to be a cantor.
I wasn't raised with any religion. You're Jewish, though.
The heartbeat of community.
I welcomed Sam into my community by first taking his foreskin and next showing him the beautiful Twister bagel.
Culturally Jewish is the only podcast covering the weird, wide world of independent Canadian Jewish art.
Listen to Culturally Jewish at the cjn.ca/culture or wherever you get your podcasts.
Igal Hecht flew from Toronto to Israel in March, and he started visiting the main memorial sites when it dawned on him how his story of October 7th could be different than the others that have come out so far, including Screams Before Silence by Sheryl Sandberg or We Will Dance Again, which is now making the rounds. Hecht felt it was important to frame his take using the actual roadmap of the highways where 1 in every 5 of Hamas's 1,200 victims were executed. This highway connects the Kerem Shalom crossing at the southern end of Gaza to northern Israel, and along the way passes places whose names are now etched in tragedy: Kibbutz Be'eri, Re'im, Kfar Aza, Nir Oz. Hecht and an Israeli-based team of photographers and researchers collected thousands of videos taken by the terrorists themselves, some of which the Israeli government's already released, but he also obtained hundreds of hours of never-before-seen dashcam video from Israel's United Hatzalah ambulances as they drove along the killing roads looking for survivors. He also spoke with first responders, soldiers, and grieving relatives, including the mother of Naor Levy, a DJ who'd escaped the dance party but was in his car when he was shot, and she remained on the phone with her dying son for his last 50 minutes, comforting him until his last breath. I sat down with Igal Hecht to discuss how he coped with the graphic scenes and with the wrenching emotional interviews, and why he's releasing his film for free. When did you get the even idea that there was going to be something you could do as a filmmaker in this fight? Because You're not in uniform.
Yeah.
No offense, but
no
you know.
offense. Listen, I'm almost 47. I don't think they need
Some
me
people went back.
So, I mean, I'm on social media and I'm vocal. I started thinking about a film, I think, within 4 or 5 days. I realized there was a film. Obviously, there would be many filmmakers, and that's how you work as a filmmaker. There's a tragedy, and you're like, okay, what can I do in terms of talking about this tragedy, especially when it hits so close to home? I stopped working really for 3-4 months. I didn't do anything because all I was focused on was October 7th. And the killing roads came to me after I saw a video that Hamas published of them shooting this Jeep. There, you see them running through the road, and then with their AK-47s, and then they killed this, I think it was an elderly couple that was just driving in their Jeep. And I started thinking about all the other murders that happened on the road, because that couldn't have been the only murder. And so I started following Telegram, all of the Hamas channels, all of the affiliate Hamas terrorist channels that exist there. And I started seeing more and more and more footage. There isn't a piece of footage that has come out of the 7 that I haven't watched or I don't have on my hard drives. We're talking about 8,000 pieces of video at least. And then in January, I basically sort of told Lior, look, we're making this movie. We got to make it. I don't care. I approached the broadcasters. Everybody said no. Every single broadcasters who have taken 10 of my films said no. So I said, screw it. I've been known for many years to make films without a budget. That's my specialty. I can make a film. I own all the gear. I don't need that much. So I need enough money to cover my crew in Israel and to cover myself to get to Israel. And that's what I did. And from the get-go, the whole reason to make this film was to release it for free. And early March, I was in Israel. I landed in Israel at 3:30 a.m., had a coffee in Ben Gurion, and by 8 a.m., I was already at Nova filming. So the moment I landed, we just went hard the first day. I needed to be there. I needed to film. It was extremely important for me.
What was there to see?
The bomb shelters. One of the things that I think that I wish Israel didn't do is paint over most of the bomb shelters. You know, they put on a fresh coat of paint right after. And I think that was a horrible mistake. We started at the intersection of Road 232 and Road 34, just outside of Sderot. And there's a bomb shelter just as you enter to Road 232 from Road 34. And the bomb shelter was, you see holes everywhere. And I thought it was gunshot, but there was no way, because the holes are on the ceilings, they're everywhere. And what it was 8 grenades. So that was the first thing. When you go into that intersection, you still see the burned trees. You still see the chalk remains on the side of the road. As you drive down Road 232, as you enter, you see more of that. The railings, you still see on the road itself the tank tracks, because the tanks had to go on the road to stop the terrorists. You see a lot of makeshift memorials from families.
Had you ever driven that road in your life before?
Oh yeah, many
times. Tell me about that.
It was just the road. I didn't really think about it. You know, when we filmed all over Israel, all the way from Eilat to
right,
Metula.
and our listeners will know you have your music and you have your artists and you have your archaeology and you have all kinds of stories.
So Road 232 is the main artery, and that's what people don't understand. It's the main artery of the South. Really, it's the longest. I believe it's the longest road in the South. I might be wrong about that, but it's the main artery that connects you from Kerem HaShalom, which is within the Gaza border, towards the rest of the country. And within there's a lot of kibbutzim. So we're going to start the city of Sderot, because that's where the film was going to start, because 80 people died there, and then track the road all the way to Kerem HaShalom.
I think most people in the diaspora don't realize the number of people that were murdered, executed on that road. Everybody thinks about the dance party, 300 and something. The numbers that people know are 1,200 and 250 hostages. Is that true? Do you agree?
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the main reasons, because I saw that everybody was focusing on Nova, and as they should, and on the kibbutzim, and heartbreaking stories there, tons of them. But nobody was really focusing on the roads, and 250 people died on the roads. That's a massive number of people. Now, some of those people were from Nova, the bulk of them.
But they got out.
Nova. And that's what we focus on. We there's a really short part in the film that we're going to Nova, but we focus on the roads just outside of Nova and what happened there, and how they were ambushed, and how the entire road was taken over by Hamas. There was no way to get out. That's what people don't realize. Once they got on those roads, it didn't matter.
Nobody knows the names of the people that you really, compared to like Hersh and all the, sort of symbols. And this is why I'm so interested in your film. You picked 20 characters, 20 real people to focus on out of the 250 who were involved.
We focus on 9. And we mention others. We do mention Hersh as well, because we talk about the bird bomb shelter. And through the process of editing, unfortunately, again, heartbreaking, that's one of the things when you sit there and you're just like, And every now and again, we mention others and we show other things, but we focused on the story of 9 people. In the movie itself, we interviewed 21 people. We focused on 9. This is for the entire world to watch, because the whole point of making this film is to show the savagery, the barbaric actions taken by not just Hamas. And I hate when people just say Hamas. This wasn't just Hamas. This was Palestinians. Who are Hamas? Hamas are Palestinians.
Well, there was a lot of other affiliated Palestinian
Islamic Jihad and Gazans. The new report that came out that between 6,000 to 7,000 terrorists included many civilians.
Go back to what you just said. This is for everyone to
Absolutely.
see. Who is this film for? Because the Jews believe it. So who is this for?
It's for, well, first of all, it's also for Jews, because let's be honest, there's also Jews who don't believe it. It's, from various groups. The movie is pretty much for anyone who wants to understand what happened on October 7th. It's a historic movie. Sure, it's almost a year now, so it doesn't feel like it, but in 10 years, this movie can be there. It was a bloodbath, and one of the things that you really see in the movie, and that's what I hope people from around the world, unaffiliated, maybe people who just like, okay, I want to know, I want to understand, because people actually think that they attacked an army base, and that's why Israel has decided to attack them back, right? They don't understand the savagery of what occurred there, and that's why I made this film. I wanted people to see and understand, to hear them. Half of the footage that we use is Hamas's footage, right? And I wanted them to see that they filmed. Not only filmed, you hear them laughing. You hear the joy. You hear the Allah Akbar. Who praises God when they murder people? Constantly praising God as they murder, as they rape, as they burn. This is what they did, and this is what we show in the movie. We are not playing down the graphic part. Like, the film is extremely graphic, and I think people need to be aware before they watch it. And it's not done in a perverse way. It's not done just for the sake of saying, I have a graphic movie. No, it's done to show the barbarity, the actions that were committed by Hamas, so they cannot be denied. So we can fight the deniers of what occurred there. To me, I've made Holocaust movies in the past. This is the same. This was a Shoah. So what if it's been a year? Somebody told me, there's an October 7th fatigue. Well, F you.
Who said that?
There's people within the community, October 7th, this. I'm like, F you and your
I
fatigue.
don't think that's true.
Or with it. It's like,
there's so many memorials happening and events. Everybody's doing something.
I want people to remember this for their entire lives. Because this is what they did to Jews. And they only did it because they were Jewish. This has nothing to do with occupation. This was done solely because these people were Jewish. 6,000 of these barbaric, I'm going to stop myself, people, whatever you want to call them, woke up on October 7th with one intent in their mind, and that is to murder, rape, burn, and destroy Jews and kill Jews.
The Israeli government already put out 45 minutes of footage earlier last year. They showed it to journalists. They showed it to influencers, opinion leaders, United Nations people. I mean, they tried to show it as many places in the civil society as they could. So where does your film fit into that kind of effort?
So I think there's a difference in terms of what the 47-minute film tried to accomplish and did accomplish in this film. First of all, you hear personal stories. Another thing is we filmed the entire movie on the road. So you're there. You're there with them at the exact spots that it happened. You see the spot, and then we found the footage an hour or two after the people were murdered. So you actually see their bodies lying there. You actually see their cars, and you actually see the burned cars. This isn't just somebody talking in their home or in a studio, talking about what happened. And although the testimony is powerful, we visually prove every single thing that's being said.
Where did you get that stuff that hasn't been seen before?
So originally I was going to make a film that... The initial intent was we're going to film it on the road. The entire film had to be shot on the road. There's 2 interviews that don't happen on the road, and there's reasons for that, and they make sense within the context of the film. Then Lior introduced me to the story of Moshe Weitzman. Moshe Weitzman was an amazing EMT who saved 80 people on that day, and he was injured. So Moshe agreed to be interviewed, and we filmed and etc. And then he said, "Oh, if you want, I have some footage from that day." And I said, "I want." And initially, we were sent a Google Drive with some of the B-roll, 3 minutes here, 2 minutes there, generic footage, burned cars and whatnot. Okay, great. Then I see another folder, 50 hours worth of footage there. And I'm like, what's that folder? Well, that's just all the dashcam footage from all the ambulances. It was footage from 8 in the morning all the way till the next day of every single point in the road. And so I'm like, and if that's the case, then that must mean that the people who we interviewed, so we have a story of a sound engineer who worked on Fauda, Lior Weitzman. And he was practicing for the Ironman competition. That's all. He was out there. That's what he does every Saturday. He was on his bike. We interviewed his wife. And as I was going through the footage 2 months after I interviewed her, and around when they killed the Hamas forces who took over Road 232, Road 34, that main junction, that main artery of the road, the ambulances were let in at around 11 o'clock. So we used the CCTV footage that exists. We used all the GoPro footage that Hamas put out there and that Israel released after killing.
You don't have copyright issues with that, right? Or who cares?
I don't know.
Let them come after you.
Hey, if Hamas wants to sue me, the Ontario Supreme Court, by all means, come out and sue me. That'll be a great film.
That would be a great story. And anything else? And people's personal footage,
people's
right?
personal footage. So the film opens on a shocking shot of Daniela Gandhi, who is an amazing young woman who survived. And she doesn't film herself, but she just films everything as she's lying there after she's been shot in her legs and other parts, bloody. And she films the windows and you hear the gunshots. And these are things, so when you watch it, you're there, you're that person. So we also got footage from the various people who we interviewed. And I'm not exaggerating. I spent the first 6 weeks every night going through this footage. You know, I'm an angry person because of this.
Okay, let's talk about it. Describe how this footage changed you mentally. How does that?
I don't know.
How are you now?
I'm fine. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I'm angrier than I've ever been. But it's not just because of the 7th. It's also because this country that I live in, Canada, that I've made home for 36 years, where I've lived most of my life, more than I have, I've lived in Israel for 11 years. I've been a Canadian citizen for 36 years, has basically made it clear to me that I'm a Jew before I'm Canadian. For anything else, I am an effing Jew. That's what this country, that's what this liberal government, and had it been another government that said they did the exact same thing, I'd use the other political parties. But this is a liberal government that has basically allowed for anti-Semitism to just run wild across Canada. I am angry at a mayor that cries on the radio for having to stand in the rain for 2 hours while she, comes out against anti-Semitism, while allowing these fascist, terrorist-supporting kafia Karens to just destroy the city. So yeah, I'm angry. I'm angry at the fact that at universities, Jews aren't allowed to walk freely.
Back to your own.
Yeah.
You said you're okay. No, but you said
clearly
you're
I'm okay. Look, I mean,
you watch this stuff.
Yeah.
What kind of self-care or even counseling did your group and you go through watching this stuff? Have you had any?
No. I mean, it's
because you said it's extremely graphic. Right?
Look, I think making the movie was a way for me to deal with this trauma. I am really blessed that I've been a filmmaker for almost 30 years. I've made many, many films. Chutzpah Production is celebrating its 25th anniversary this month. And I've been able to survive in this country being a very openly Zionist, conservative filmmaker. So I used my skill set to deal with the trauma by making this film because I had to know that I did something. I'm just being honest. I had to know that I did something, that it wasn't just sitting at home, bitching and moaning, and feeling helpless. No, this is a way for me to do something. So in a way, this is really helping me. It's a selfish act. In terms of dealing with the trauma, I haven't. I really haven't. And clearly, I don't know if I have it or I don't. I've done genocide films in the past. This is my 7th or 8th movie dealing with genocides. I've watched a lot of ISIS footage as well. This was worse to me. This was worse to me because it was very, very personal. I traveled those roads a lot. I really did for filming. We filmed so much outside of Sderot for so many years. And I'm not saying that could have been me, but it really could have. I could have. It was a random day. I film in Israel in the fall. I could have been filming in that area. There could have been a project there. Hell, what if I wanted to make a movie about a dance party? That was the biggest dance party in Israel. Like, the notion is that these were random people. This wasn't an attack on the army. Not that that's any better, but these were random civilians that were murdered. But not only were murdered, and that's one thing, going back to the movie, that you find out.
Yeah.
And that's infuriating. And I say that, really, this is not a movie that I wanted to make. In fact, there's 2 scenes in the film where you see me come to terms with that. This is not a movie that I wanted to make. This is not a movie that I wished I had made. This is not a movie that I celebrated making. This is not a movie I want to profit of. And this is why I'm releasing it for free.
Is it because it's so graphic that major broadcasters
No.
couldn't do it because of
I don't think so.
Like ratings and stuff? Is that an issue for you?
No, not at all. Because I had a broadcaster reach out to me 2 weeks ago. Wonderful broadcaster. And I'm grateful for them reaching out. And they wanted a 45-minute cut, which is a TV cut. It's an hour cut. And I talked to them about the graphic nature, and they said, no, that's not going to be a problem. You blur faces, etc. I'm like, yeah. That wasn't going to be the issue. The issue for me became, the movie's 112 minutes long.
For a reason.
For a reason. And I don't want to water things down. It's wonderful to have it on a broadcaster, and I understand that. We all need to eat, and we all need to make money at the end of the day. But release it for free, because this is going to be the next 10 to 20 years. There's going to be, just like there's Holocaust deniers, there'll be October 7th denial. There already is, and it'll ramp up more and more and more, and people are going to just try to justify it and all those things. One of the best ways to battle it is through media. That is, and documentaries, I think, play a role here. I'm not saying it's a crucial role, but they play an important role, because people want to watch documentaries, and as long as your facts and the truth is there, and you can illustrate visually what these horrific terrorists, Palestinian terrorists, did.
If I have the courage to watch the whole thing, I'll try.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have a 20-second warning right off the bat of the film. If you're triggered by this footage, if you're unable to watch this footage, then I don't know if you'll be able to watch the film. I had just had a journalist from Israel who's going to do a story, and they said they were able to make it through halfway. It starts off right off the bat, and then every time you think it can't get worse, it does. And that was that day.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily. The Killing Roads is being released online for free at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, October the 1st, at www.thekillingroads.com. And I put the link for you in our show notes. Hecht's film is only the second Canadian take on October 7th. Toronto's Ronen Israelski's 3 Days in October was the first one out of the gate, and producer Ina Fitchman is now working on a film on the life of Canadian-born peace activist Vivian Silver, with funding from Steven Spielberg and his wife. Our show is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman, our executive producer is Michael Freeman, and our music is by Dov Beck-Levine. And The Daily is made possible in part by the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Thanks for listening.